Tēnei rā, ko te marea kua hau mai ki te uru tapu e take a mai ana i te kamatua tahi te kamatua rua. O te kawa ki arangi nui e tū nei ki a papa e takoto nei whānau. Whānau, hara mai te tō ki o haumi e, hui e, tae ki e. This week, on the hui. Fighting on for the whenua, that is, what's left of it.
Underpins all of this, confiscated land. To have things stripped and taken from you all the time, it's just heartbreaking.
As the government look to build infrastructure faster, Northland hapū are saying no to taking their land for rail and road.
If all other options have been exhausted, ultimately it may need to involve the compulsory acquisition.
And good news out of the East Coast settlement of Wairoa, the rebirth of their local paper, the Wairoa Star.
Really gutsy to do it because it won't be easy.
Yeah, I'd like to think we'll bring some new school thinking to an old school communications medium.
Te hunga kua kumea ki te rirerere o te pō, hara mai, haere. Tātou kei te pito ora, ti hewa mauri ora, and welcome back to the hui. Whena Cooper famously said, not 1 acre more, but Northland hapū are now saying not 1 more metre. But earlier this month, the government announced the infrastructure projects to be fast-tracked, which included a new rail link proposed to go through some of the last remaining whenua Māori in the Whangarei district. Mea nei te purongo, Amiriana Johnson.
To understand the loss and then realise it's too late. To have things stripped and taken from you all the time, it's just heartbreaking. It's about destruction, it's about obliteration, it's about annihilation.
South of Whangarei, the whenua of Te Pāho lies eroded by development. The Marsden Point oil refinery, once holding such economic promise, now closed. The sacred maunga Māngai defaced.
It's heavy going. Heavy going, because in my experience, Māori as a collective has really been shortchanged in the north. I see the same world that my ancestors saw in 1750, but it's all changed.
In Takahiwai, only slithers of Māori land remain. Now the Crown wants the last of this hapū's land. Northport at Marsden Point is one of the few ports in the country not connected to rail. A 19-kilometre rail link is proposed to connect Northport to the main line, but it goes right through the last block of Te Pāho land, Kopua Waiwaha.
Well, it would be nice to be asked rather than to be told. But then again, the Act says the right to take.
The Public Works Act gives the Crown power to acquire land from private landowners for building infrastructure like roads, schools, hospitals and rail.
Has land previously been taken under Public Works?
Yes, 4 miles from here, 5,000 acres. And guess who sits on there? Northport. Who needs the Marsden rail link? Northport. Well, what is necessary for those industries such as Northport? Confiscated Māori land. Underpins all of this. Underpins the industrial development in the Whangarei district. Confiscated land.
Further up the line, promised economic development has come to a grinding halt. 100-odd kilometres of new concrete sleepers lie alongside the defunct Kodi to Oteria rail line in preparation for an upgrade. When the land was first taken for rail a century ago under the Public Works Act, the hapū, Ngāti Te Ara and Ngāti Kōpaki were happy to sell.
It was very nostalgic for them because they would ride horses in and out to get to town, and now they actually have a form of transport where they get to pick up all their metes along the way, have a cup of tea with them and then go into Kawakawa.
The railway was mothballed in 2016, but now Kiwi Rail want to reopen the line so forestry and other goods from the far north can go directly to Northport.
Our generation today, we can't stand Kiwi Rail, sorry. No, I'm not going to say sorry, we can't stand them. because they still came into our communities in a really aggressive way to speak to our families.
Miley George is among those in Aotearoa saying no to bringing back rail.
Isn't there an economic benefit of having the railway lines working again?
Back in my grandmother's time, yes, because we had uncles that used to do the trains up and down. So like I said, it was a very generational thing. It was very thriving back in those times for my grandmother and all of the valleys, but it's a different experience now in 2024.
You don't believe that it will bring jobs for whānau here?
Nah, not at all, because I've always said that, mai rāno. And probably in every small community they've said that. Then they contract and bring their own people in to do part of that mahi in that project. So, yeah, talk is cheap.
And the hapū is up against a strong force.
We need to fix the infrastructure, the roads, and I want the rail re-established from Whangarei to Aotearoa. And I don't want to hear any more excuses from any whānau in Ngāti Hine that they're going to resort to violence if the railway goes ahead.
You don't come here, Shane Jones. You don't know our families. You haven't even bothered to speak to our people. So, you know, haere tonu, stay where you are, up in the far north. You are not welcome here if you're going to treat and speak to our people like that.
Decades of fighting the Crown for whenua have taken their toll.
When you continue to have things stripped and taken from you all the time, it's just heartbreaking. It's like, you know, it's abusive for families.
Bringing their plight before Parliament is Green MP Huhana Linden.
Have you had any conversations with other relevant ministers, say Minister Shane Jones?
We have a different worldview and we have given so much as iwi Māori. You don't need to look far to see how much Māori have contributed in each city, town and district. Why do we have to give more?
Māori land in the Whangarei district went from this in 1840 to this today.
So that's what we are left with. We've already given so much. We've lost it for roads, we've lost it for cycleways and railways, and now you're wanting to take a bit extra. Every metre counts in Tere Whenua Māori. When you have so little, it means so much. Not one more metre.
Her members' bill would amend the current Public Works Act, meaning whānau could say no to the Crown taking land for roads and rail.
If the whānau agree, kei te pai. If the whānau don't agree, that's where my bill kicks in to enable them to say no and go around the corner and go elsewhere.
Meanwhile, back in Takahiwai, they are fighting on for the future generations.
So as a teacher, I'm thinking, our children are not going, they're not finishing secondary school. What are we going to do about that? What is this little wee trust going to do about our kids not finishing secondary school?
Here we go!
With the rent they earn from leasing out the land, they've set up a fund for their rangatahi.
So my idea was that let's start a small education grant, but it has to be for secondary schools.
So these Te Parawhau rangatahi from Green Bay College in Northland are set to visit their sister school in Japan.
It's kind of just sharing a little bit of our culture with them like they did when they came over here, and just give them like a little view, a little performance of what we traditionally do as Māori, and also what relates back to New Zealand as well.
How do your whānau feel about you all heading off together to Japan?
I think they're pretty excited for us and like know this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, so we should just definitely take it, and it'll be like a great experience for us, especially in the future.
A once in a lifetime opportunity made possible by their hapū whenua trust.
That was like a big boost into getting quite a lot of people over to Japan.
It was a big help and definitely like gave me that push over the line to meet the goal. So it was really good.
It goes real fast, guys.
A trust that will have no funds if the land is acquired by Kiwi Rail.
We've been trusted to do this job. And there are young ones coming after us. And you don't want them to say of you, they didn't do a good job, did they? No. No.
The man with the power to change this situation is Minister for Land Information, Chris Pink. He has commissioned a review to speed up land acquisition, and he sat down with Mediana Johnson to explain how this will affect Māori.
If you had a private landowner and they only had 5% of their land left, would it be fair then to take more of that for public works?
I think we do need to be sensitive to the 95% that has been lost, and that's why we need to, as a starting point, that we don't acquire land compulsorily, particularly from Māori landowners who are unwilling.
What if they're not willing to?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to prejudge the outcome of the review, but it might be that a recommendation is that there's an incentive for doing that early as opposed to late, and therefore, provide great opportunity for those who move early, and therefore the community that's going to benefit from the road or the school or the hospital or whatever, actually that they can, get that benefit much more quickly. It might be that we actually front load a bit of compensation and actually be able to be more generous early on to save people having a big fight later, going through the, the environment court.
What if money isn't a factor for people?
Yeah, and it's a very fair point. We know that there's an emotional connection to the land, certainly for, tangata whenua, and wanting that to be respected. We need to be sensitive to that. But I think that goes back to that original point that where possible we avoid having to, acquire land, and that might be the rerouting of a highway or a railway line or whatever the case may be. So that's the starting point there, that it's a last resort, not a first resort.
So the hapū of Te Parawhau, their last remaining land blocks, they're currently leasing out, and with that money they're paying for scholarships for secondary school students. But Kiwi Rail is seeking to acquire that last remaining block of land for the Marsden Point Spur. Is that fair?
I've got to be careful I don't talk too specifically about particular parcels of land and scenarios that might play out in different ways, including under the current process and then any court action. Can I just say, though, is in terms of the principle you've outlined, that there is, if there's ongoing benefit that's used to, fund particular community good within the iwi context, then that's, something positive that can come out of the process. And I think to provide some certainty, but also maximum benefit for those involved is, should be an aim of the system.
Why not give those landowners the right to say no?
We want people to have their private property rights respected, but at the end of the day, we cannot have a situation where, the Crown isn't able to go ahead and do these works for the benefit of the community at large.
There's no private landowner in Aotearoa that's had to give up so much of their land for the public good as Māori landowners have. Should that not be taken into account?
Absolutely, and we're very sensitive to that history, but I think we're now in 2024 and in recent years talking about compensation, not confiscation. There's got to be a major public benefit to necessitate the taking in the first place. And then the other factor is that it is a last resort to Māori freehold land being, for example, no acquisitions having taken place compulsorily since 2013.
So no Māori land taken since 2013?
In terms of Māori freehold land, I understand.
Land.
Yeah.
Can you assure Māori landowners, particularly in the north, that their whenua and their relationship with the whenua won't be impacted by this Public Works Act review, which ultimately is trying to speed up acquisition of land?
Yeah, well, I can assure everyone, and I commit that we'll minimise the disruption relative to that public good that's going to unlock a lot of potential for communities and provide education, health, transport, flood protection opportunities that don't currently exist.
Will those public works, though, come at the expense or cost of those landowners?
If all other options have been exhausted in terms of the project itself and in terms of negotiations between the current owner of the land and the government agency that needs to acquire that, ultimately that may need to involve the compulsory acquisition.
Now, the report of an expert advisory panel reviewing the Public Works Act is complete and will go to Cabinet for a decision before Christmas. Kiwi Rail Northland Program Director Eric Hennefoff says they are looking at redesigning that part of the rail link to avoid the Māori freehold land. However, the work is still ongoing. Akati gei tonu maira e hoa mā ko maianga ke anō he whetū I te pae. A star is reborn in the east coast town of Wairoa with the relaunch of their century-old newspaper. Kia ngā tūra te tiro ki te Wairoa, I aia nei. Floods, gangs and freezing work closures. Now that's the kind of kaupapa that usually makes headlines for the East Coast settlement of Wairoa. But this week's relaunch of its local newspaper, the Wairoa Star, is being seen as an opportunity to rebrand the town's image. New owners, Iwi Trust Tātou o te Wairoa, are bringing back the paper on Thursdays and launching it online. We sent reporter Ravani Pereira on this feel-good story.
The lifeline of a community cut off after more than a century.
The final edition of the Wairoa Star goes on sale today. It's another closure of a news outlet.
Now an iwi has stepped in to save the local newspaper.
Fully aware we're bucking the trend.
They're getting ready to start spreading good news again.
We're able to deliver local stories from a local voice.
Really gutsy to do it because it won't be easy.
The rebirth of the Wairoa Star.
Look, nothing worth doing comes easy.
Do you reckon you'll read it?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Because
we like to know what's going on in the town.
We like to know the gossip.
Well, to me, it's home, right? Ko tēnei taku tūranga waiwai.
Aidan Clark has vivid memories of his paper run delivering the news to the people of Wairoa.
I used to ride on my BMX bike and deliver it as a young 11-year-old, jamming that paper into that letterbox and without a care in the world. I was probably only in a rush because I wanted to hurry up and get to rugby training.
30 years after you were putting these into people's letterboxes, Te Whetū or Wairoa is back again into people's homes. How does that feel for you?
Yeah, it's cool. Trip down memory lane, and it's going to be, awesome to see the smiles back on the faces of the people who love reading it. Very much a full circle moment to be able to go out there and be a kaihotu of redelivering the newspaper again.
In May, the twice-weekly paper was axed.
The final edition of the Wairoa Star goes on sale today, with the paper closing just over 100 years since it began publishing.
For the first time in more than a century, the town was deprived of a local newspaper.
People probably didn't expect it, despite it being an absolute taonga of this community for 103 years.
Enter Aidan, CEO of the post-settlement Iwi Trust, Tātou o te Wairoa. The former paperboy couldn't bear to see his precious paper gone for good, not on his watch.
It's amazing. 103 years, there's been some tough times. You've got people returning from war, you've got, really tough economic times, but in those generations, they found a way. You get an opportunity to be given a role like I have and come home and do some positive things for our people. Just the opportunity to end up in people's letterboxes and for them to read it and know that their own iwi or their own people created this thing is going to be really rewarding.
Aidan felt the paper was too important to the community and came up with a way to bring it back to life.
Yeah, I'd like to think we'll bring some new school thinking to an old school sort of communications medium. To me, it's about providing a trusted source of information.
Yeah, he's a bit of a legend, old Aidan.
Wairoa Mayor Craig Little is excited about the paper's return.
Well done to Tātou, the commercial board. Absolute innovative thinking and really, really gutsy to do it because it won't be easy.
Do you still have to return a profit though?
100%. Yep. My role as kaihotu of our commercial entity is to protect the pūtea and grow the pūtea. But also we have a huge responsibility to seed prosperity and to give people opportunities. So through this, we're able to create some jobs.
Should we do that reo quiz? Do you like that idea?
Yeah, love it. The new paper will be lean with only 3 staff on the payroll. Mayana Daniels is responsible for much-needed advertising sales. What's the reaction been like from local businesses?
Yeah, great. Local businesses are really, really rapt to be able to get their messaging out there, let the community know what they're up to, and I think just overall, the whole community is just really, really excited. Tātou purchasing the paper is momentous. We're able to deliver local stories from that kaupapa Māori perspective.
So what do you want to see in there? More kapahaka stuff in there?
Yes, more Māoritanga.
My grandfather, he loves reading the newspaper, the Wairoa Star, so for it to come back to our local home, yep, it's definitely awesome. Have you missed it?
Yes, because I don't go online half the time, so it's easy just to go buy it.
I'll definitely be supporting it, the local paper. I think they're brilliant.
And you don't have to go too far in this town to find stories of people making a positive impact on the community. People like Jamie Cox, who's been selected as assistant coach for the under-19s, headed to the World Boxing Championships in Colorado this month.
I wanted to learn more skills that I could bring back to our gym.
For over 20 years, Jamie's been offering free boxing classes for kids of all ages.
Jab first, good boy. It's made a difference in their lives. You know, they've learned values and discipline.
The gym's success stories have featured in the Wairoa Star in the past and will no doubt have plenty more for the new once-a-week edition.
Well, Wairoa Star is Wairoa, really. We're an isolated town, you know, we'll have our own set of issues, but having a community newspaper, that really helps in holding everything together. It's, a bit of a glue, I suppose.
Back on Aidan's old paper round, there's more good news to share. 43 new affordable homes are being built here.
This used to be an orange grove, so Tātou purchased this for the whole purpose of activating this housing. It's a long time since you've seen a development of this size, but much needed.
You've got to be pretty proud of this.
Extremely proud, From delivering papers to delivering houses for our whānau is pretty special. And then now the opportunity to ensure that that newspaper carries on the legacy, it's pretty cool.
The finishing touches are going on with the deadline for the launch of the paper looming.
It needs to be awesome so that it can last another 100 years.
Aidan is keen to hear what the people of Wairoa think about the changes they've made to make sure it stands the test of time.
It's going to be fun, it's going to be vibrant, it's going to tell the stories of the town, which are that anyway. So we're just doing our job of connecting our people up with those stories.
Ka Waine, and the first edition of the relaunched Wairoa Star is out on Thursday, just in time for the long weekend. Nō reira, pānuitia. E haere ake nei, e hoa mā, nā te Māori anō pea, te ipu o Amerika, I noho Aotearoa mai ai. We talk the Māori America's Cup after this. He toa ki te wai. Team New Zealand's Taihoro sailed away from Ineos Britannia on Sunday to retain the America's Cup. The decision to hold the competition in Spain was a controversial one, with many Kiwis gutted the race moved away from Tāmaki Makaurau. However, the team's 20-year connection to Auckland iwi Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei wasn't left behind. The iwi's new waka te kāwau and a cohort of kaihoi travelled to Spain to escort Taihoro to the start line of every race. And their kaihaka entertained crowds at the race village. Here's John Boynton.
Te kāwau ki uta,
te kāwau ki tai. Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei showcasing te ao Māori on the world stage. Every race day, the Auckland City iwi and their waka, te kāwau, have been leading Team New Zealand out to defend the America's Cup.
Yeah, it's been unreal being here that first day that we escorted them out. I wasn't prepared for how, just the spectators in general.
For the Kai Uringi, it's a life-changing experience.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the America's Cup, so it was awesome seeing their boat on the water and knowing that we were escorting them out to put their mast up and get ready for the race. Yeah, such a cool experience that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Months of training went into this haerenga. And even when the team arrived almost 1 month ago, the preparation didn't stop. Dave Harriman, the Kai Hotsu, is more than proud of his crew and the whole rōpū.
The journey to get here, it's been very much fast-tracking our knowledge of our waka, our knowledge of being a kaihoi. From the launch day in June to today, it's just been mahi, mahi, mahi. Just seeing the growth in our kaihoi, both our young rangatahi, taiohi, right through to our elder statesman who's around 55 years old, and basically working towards getting a greater understanding of our waka together.
And the biggest thing for me being on this whole journey and this whole trip is just reconnecting with our whānau, really getting to know everybody a lot better.
On land, the iwi has been just as spectacular.
The crowd actually turned up even more once the performances were on. So yeah, seeing everybody enjoy our culture and getting amongst it has been awesome.
I'm just proud of our kaihoi, absolutely proud of their efforts in such a small amount of time to pull this off. Happy for our kaihaka to be able to represent from the land. And as a rōpū, I just hope that we've done our people proud, done our iwi proud, done the country proud.
From Kiwis in Barcelona to the motu cheering on from home. Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei leaving a lasting impression in Pāniora.
E ao te pūrongo. Now that is our hui tonight. We have another hui a te rāwiki. Hei te wiki e tūmai nei ka tō aitia. Ngā kōrero I hakapuakina I te wā I whakatauri ai te pūrongo I kia nei ko whanaketia through pain and trauma from darkness to light. Kia mau, ki te tūranga o tapatapu Atea. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui I tautoko.